This is the
Five Stars
podcast.
Let me talk to you.
Hi.
So, what do you guys want to talk about? Tell me we're not telling lies.
Thanks, guys. Back to you.
All right, what's going on, people? It is a frigid Sunday morning as I sit down to currently record this. The weather outside is frightful. And the radar was actually correct. Forecast called for about 8 to 10 inches of snow overnight. And, well, I looked out the window this morning when I woke up. They weren't kidding. I'd say it's about 8 to 10 inches, give or take. In fact, you can hear them running machines out there right now to try to clear up the sidewalks. Now, the good news is I don't have to go out in it. The bad news is that I highly doubt the roads will be in any better condition tomorrow. Which sucks because I'm supposed to fly out of state. And I'm hoping the airports don't delay any flights. I mean, I live outside of Cleveland. Maybe 20, 25 minutes. Most of the snow I think we're getting is lake effect. But it's been brutal the last month. Cold, icy. Plowing trucks have been egregious with getting out and clearing the roads in the early mornings. It's ridiculous. That's what you get with government-paid employees, union workers. Half-assed jobs get half-assed results. Dig a hole on the highway for no reason, block off 2 of the 3 lanes, and then everyone stands around while one guy with an excavator does all the work. Oh yeah, I guess I should probably mention, since I'm on the subject of being out of town this week, there will be no Friday show. Just a heads up. I will record the Monday show, make sure that's ready to go live tomorrow around 9 a.m., and then we'll pick back up with things next weekend with regular scheduling. I know I did a whole spiel about trying to be more consistent with shows in 2026. Believe me, I'm trying. But when out-of-town jobs come up, it's really hard to find time to record anything. Long days and logistical issues. I'm not even bringing my computer with me to the airport. Screw that. Not with all the requirements about removing batteries and having to separate the actual computer from the bag. Too much work for something so simple to transport. So I'm leaving the computer behind this week. I don't need it. But like I said, we'll do the Raw review today. And then I'll enjoy my Sunday off since services were canceled. Which I'm thankful for because I probably wouldn't have wound up going anyway. Especially with the way the roads are taken care of in the area I live. I mean, it's a nice area, but not the best in terms of clearing snow. But anyway, folks, you are currently tuned into the Five Starr Wrestling Report, the wrestling podcast no one knows but everybody needs. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and like the show for me. Please and thank you. Check out the FSWR podcast on YouTube and Rumble every week. It is time for another deep dive into the mayhem and chaos that is Retro Raw from early 97. And good lord, are things about to get really chaotic throughout the month of February. Well, pretty much up until WrestleMania. It's a little early to be swearing, probably. The algorithms don't like cursing in the first 5 or so minutes of the video. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's the best term to describe everything about this period of the WWF. Clusterfuck. From now up until WrestleMania 13, just everything we're about to see over the next 8 or 9 weeks, it is by far one of the craziest and most out-of-control situations the WWF would see until, evidently, Montreal in November. So what do you say we dive into the trenches? Sticking with the theme of clusterfucks, here's the picture-perfect definition of one. The opening match for Raw this week. Ahmed Johnson versus Crush. Good God in heaven, they actually booked this to happen on TV. I think as a deliberate means of trying to piss me off from the onset. Before I even attempt to cherry pick some of the deplorable action here, a couple things to mention. Savio Vega turned heel on Ahmed during a house show in Madison Square Garden. So he's now the newest member of the nation. So we now have a pro-Islamic / Black Panther Party knockoff group consisting of a black ringleader, a bunch of unidentified cult followers who don't wrestle, PG-13, who literally are just there to rap and be flunkies, Clarence Mason, their manager, Crush, who fucking sucks, and now Savio Vega, who is of neither Islamic nor African American descent. He's Puerto Rican. Remember that thing I kept reverting to back when we were talking about the earliest version of the Nation of Domination? How it was absolutely no good? Yeah, I stand by that. This faction sucks. I truly did not process just how bad this group was until I started going back and seeing these old Raws from late 96, early 97, before they turned rock heel and started bringing in guys like D'Lo Brown and The Godfather and, you know, the core members of the nation that actually made it click. The 98 version. Yeah, everything prior with this group is complete and total ass. I don't care what anyone says. It is a bad, bad faction. And speaking of bad, holy smokes, this fucking match. So here's the problem. On the one hand, you have Crush, who, God bless the guy, I've heard that Bryan Adams was a genuinely nice man and a great person behind the camera. I do not doubt that for a minute. I'm sure he was a wonderful employee. Probably one of the easiest guys to do business with. But I, for one, have had the displeasure of having to watch Crush in many, many matches from about mid-1993 up until about 2000, 2001. I think the stuff he did in WCW with Chronic. That's the last thing I ever recall seeing him do on a major platform. So I have some experience in watching Crush work. He was a very, very, very bad professional wrestler. Just everything about his work was absolute garbage. But even so far as looking at how terrible Crush was, it pales in comparison to how fucking atrocious Ahmed was. I understand he was over. I understand that the WWF crowd really liked Ahmed and really got behind him, especially that late 96, early 97 time frame. But man, was his work rotten. Rotten to the fucking core. He looked like a drunk deer on ice skates out there half the time. He was clunky. He was awkward. His sense of timing was awful. He had no sense of ring psychology. So Crush and Ahmed are out there having this horrendous match. Crowd got fed up with it the longer it went. Ahmed at one point did a scissor kick to Crush using his left leg when Crush was standing to the right of Ahmed's body. Think about that for a minute. They came back from break just in time to show Ahmed struggling to give Crush an electric chair, meaning that Crush was halfway down Ahmed's back and he wasn't able to hoist him up any higher. So they just kind of fell back in a heap and it looked horrible. I think Crush might have said something to the effect of, "Well, that didn't go well." Eventually, they fought to the floor to set up the finish, where Ahmed went to roll Crush back in. But then Crush took the ref so Farouk could run down and throw Ahmed into the steps. And then Crush did his stupid-looking heart punch finish and got the pin. All caps, I wrote, "Fucking awful." One of the worst matches I've seen on a retro show in a very long time. And there have been some bad Raw matches in the last year. I know that. This one was beyond hideous. And I just thought after seeing all this go down, you turned Savio heel. Not only did you not book him to wrestle Ahmed, he didn't even make a single appearance in this segment. Not to say the match would have been any better had it been Ahmed versus Savio, but it sure would have been light years better than this trash. Ahmed versus Crush. They actually wrote that down on paper and said, "That's a great idea. Let's book that." Again, I know he was a nice guy, but goddamn it, son. Fuck, Crush was horrible. Every single gimmick repackage he had over the years, everything he was involved with, it was never any good. And I can never get away from the guy. He was like the Jeff Jarrett of the 2000s, but a decade prior. First it was Kona Crush, sucked. Then it was him with Mr. Fuji when he became Tribal Crush, sucked. Then it was Jailbird Crush, sucked. Then he went to WCW and became a member of the New World Order, sucked. Then they paired him with Brian Clark and Chronic, sucked. Oh, that's not even accounting for any of his work in New Japan. Come to think of it, I don't think I've seen footage of his work prior to the WWF. And frankly, I have no interest in doing so. I saw enough of him in the States to tell you he was no good. Not to speak ill of the dead. Just calling it like it is. So we follow that up with, what began as a Shawn Michaels promo. And no, this is not the infamous "I lost my smile" speech. That doesn't happen until the 13th of February when the WWF is airing taped on that Thursday. Which is significant because of reasons that are mentioned in this promo with Vince. So Shawn comes down, and they begin hyping the big rematch for the 13th. It was supposed to be him versus Sid for the third time. And, well, for reasons that became apparent in a couple weeks, plans changed. Remember the theme from earlier. So they spent a couple minutes hyping up a match that never took place. A couple crowd shots they went to during the spiel. I took note of the lady with the binoculars, which is high comedy. There was also a young lady looking bored out of her mind being there. Even Shawn wasn't enough to make her giddy with enthusiasm. She probably still had PTSD from that fucking Ahmed Crush match. As did I. Then they started talking about the big four-way at In Your House. And Shawn did a fairly half-assed job putting over everybody involved. I honestly had no clue what he was talking about for most of it. Something about how everybody in the locker room has a bad attitude, and I don't know, the whole thing didn't really make sense. So things eventually pick up with Bret coming out. He came down to tell Shawn that he wants him at his best for WrestleMania because Bret plans on winning the four-way. He plans on meeting Shawn for the title at WrestleMania. And he plans on righting the wrong from the previous year's title match. Of course, Vince had to chime in and mention that Bret is completely overlooking the advertised match between Shawn and Sid for the 13th. In other words, can we not completely spoil the intended finish for that TV match? As if anybody actually would have thought Sid was going to win the belt back. Again, obviously trying to build suspension between the two guys that were supposed to headline Mania 13. And so that brought out The Undertaker. And this is where I promptly wrote, oh look, it's a modern WWE Raw segment in 2026. All the top stars competing for the title come out individually and cut a promo while everybody else stands around looking dumb. Here's where that trope began. Here in the late 90s. I promise you, it sucked back then, and it sucks equally now. So Taker did his monologue, saying he plans on taking Shawn's title and body at WrestleMania. I believe his actual quote was, "Your title and your body will belong to me." Creepy. And then out came Stone Cold. And this part was actually great. So he's in the aisleway with JR cutting his promo, basically saying that all three babyfaces can cry, piss, and moan about whatever they want. But the bottom line is that Stone Cold is going to walk out of the four-way the winner, because no disqualification is right up his alley. Meanwhile, as he's talking, you see in the background two silhouette figures. And it's actually a really cool visual on camera because Steve doesn't realize they're back there at first. But it's also not totally apparent who it is, because all you see is black shadow. So then Lawler point blank just goes, "Hey, look, it's Vader." I'm like, thanks, dude. Way to completely kill the illusion. Made even better when Austin just walks by them like they're total geeks. That was where I immediately knew that Vince had given up on Vader. I mean, technically I knew he gave up on him after SummerSlam 96. But here, I mean, they may as well have just had Austin piss on Vader's boots as he was going by. It barely even acknowledged him. There was a germ of an idea for this segment, but Again, it came off exactly like something I would expect to see on a modern WWE show in 2026. It's, let's bring out all the guys competing in the big multi-man for the belt, give everybody individual promo time, then move on with the show. And remember, too, this is how they followed last week when all four guys got into a brawl at ringside. 1 week later, now they're talking at one another. That is what we call de-escalation. It's like following a gunfight with a pissing contest. That's essentially what they did here. So then we had Davey Boy taking on Doug Furnas. Or was it Phil LaFawn? No, it was definitely Furnas. The fact that I had to think about that tells you enough. They had a very technically sound match. A fine little exhibition that no one in the crowd cared about because, well, nobody cares about Furnas and LaFawn as a tag team. Mainly because they've never been given any reason to care about them. Davey got heat on him through the break. During the break, they showed a clip of Ahmed breaking into the Nation's locker room with a 2x4. A payoff that led to, well, nothing. He kicked the door down and realized nobody was in the locker room. The best moment in this match was Owen on the floor pointing at LaFawn and going, "That guy over there gives Canada a bad name. He's like my lousy brother Brett." That was almost a direct quote. He still had to get in his jabs at brother Brett. Just to demonstrate that he's still the jealous, bitter little brother. I love Owen, man. He was so fucking great. So Furnas made a short babyface comeback. They're doing some trading toward the end. And this is where the Russo special hit hard. The classic unnecessary overbooking. It wasn't enough for them to do the ref distraction spot so Furnas could shoot Davey into Owen and bump him off the apron. No, they still had to have Davey kick out at 2 so that Furnas could knock Owen off the apron again. And then when Furnas went to try to jackknife Davey, he turns it over and stacks up Furnas for the 3. So in other words, the ref distraction was completely superfluous and led to nothing. If only that were the dumbest of the booking finishes we'd see from Vinny Rue over the next year or two. Now, this one was moderately tame compared to some of the crap we were about to get in the coming year. Just wait until 98 when like half the fucking TV matches are either DQ or countout finishes. There's like 10,000 run-ins and outside bullshit going on at any given time. That's what I'm looking forward to. I should also point out here, they did another breakup tease between Owen and Bulldog, but they just wound up shaking hands, which the crowd did not like. They wanted to see a face turn from Davey, and they were left quite unsatisfied. We got clips of the MSG live event, some Shotgun Saturday Night footage, and then following those 2 clips, we get Vader and Mankind versus the Hog Farmers. Because even though the WWF was slowly adapting with the changing times of hokey gimmicks and bad cartoon characters, well, we still had the Hog Farmers around. By the way, this is the TV main event. Not that I'm signifying it was a bad thing. I'm just stating a fact. It's 1997, and the fucking Hog Farmers are main eventing Monday Night Raw. Like it's the spring of 96 all over again. So here's what we had going on. Mankind and Vader are now a tag team because they're both aligned with Paul Bearer. But you see, Vince Russo is the head writer, and it's a Russo rule that in booking pro wrestling, all tag teams must never get along. Partners must hate each other for no discernible reason. They can never be friends. They always have to constantly be bickering and arguing with each other. Because it's story, bro. So, Mankind and Vader, a tag team that has existed for 1 week, they can't get along. They're not clicking with each other. Mankind refuses to tag Vader in. Vader's getting all pissed off the longer the match goes. But see, here's the irony in all this. When you watch this match, you would think that it's Phineas and Henry Godwin who are about to turn on one another. There was a spot where Henry tried to break up the heels beating on Phineas by, well, not just him taking out Mankind, but also taking out Phineas. He got into the ring and shit-canned both of them to the outside. Then, approximately a minute later, Henry went to jump off the ring steps to try to take out Mankind, when in actuality, he ended up stepping right on Phineas's head and damn near killing him. I'm like, Did I miss an angle where Henry Godwin insisted on destroying his own tag partner? Because he's beating the fuck out of poor Phineas in this match. So they come back from break where Phineas finally hot tags Hank. He's a house of fire for approximately 30 seconds before Vader takes the piss out of him. And here's what they do for a finish. Vader restrains Hank on the floor so Mankind can go to hit him with a chair, but Hank moves, so Mankind accidentally hits Vader in the head. Not a DQ, by the way. And Mankind sells it like he did it deliberately, even though it was clearly accidental in storyline. But again, they're tag partners who hate each other, so obviously Mankind was going to be smiling about it. We also came to learn that the Godwins won by countout. So apparently Henry got back in the ring before the 10. Not caught on camera, by the way. Well, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't as bad as the opener, but I still would not classify this as a good TV main event. The thing with Vader and Mankind, again, it's been well over 20 years since I've gone back and seen any of this footage in real time. The thing is, I remember Vader being paired with Paul Bearer, and I remember him and Mankind working very briefly together. I don't really remember the match they had for the tag titles at WrestleMania, nor do I remember how or if these two ever ended up feuding at any point. The only thing I know is that they shoot the angle later this year where The Undertaker burns Paul's face with a fireball, and then Paul goes away for a while, comes back with that completely new look, and then by midsummer, they're already teasing the stuff between him and Kane. So I have no clue how they settle this whole triangle deal with Paul Vader and Mankind. Judging how they were booking them, kind of seems like the WWF had no clue how they were going to do it either. But that's just speculation. So before we close out, I have to draw attention to this angle with Ahmed and the Nation in the parking lot. Probably one of the most fitting endings to a Raw I've seen in a while. Everything I'm about to talk about happened in about 10 seconds flat. They come back from commercial doing a Western Union sponsor plug, and then immediately, it's Ahmed is chasing down the Nation as they're loading their luggage in their car. He grabs one of the PG-13 guys and stuffs him into the trunk. He slams the lid shut. He swings the 2x4 at the back of the hood. The car drives off as other Nation members fall out of the passenger seats. And then everybody begins chasing after the vehicle. I am not being hyperbolic when I say all of that happened in about 10 seconds. I watched it all back. It was no more than 10. From the time they cut the camera to the back, that entire escapade happened in about 10 seconds. It was like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon in real time. And that was how they ended the show. Ahmed did not get his hands on the Nation, unfortunately. Twice on one show he failed. Unless you count him stuffing one of the PG-13 guys into the back of the car. But that's all he did. He picked him up and threw him in the trunk. Yeah, that show was pretty abhorrent. Well, no. The opener was abhorrent. The rest of the show was anywhere from boring to just downright forgettable. But we do have some big things coming up. Not the least of which was something they didn't even mention on this show. So we know about the taped Raw for the 13th of February. Also the night Shawn vacates the title and loses his smile. In that order. But I believe next week, the 3rd of February, that marks the official date that Raw goes to 2 hours. Which again, I'm surprised they did not even address on this show. That's kind of a big deal. Nitro was already 2 hours by this point, but they also still had the foothold of going live, I think, an hour before Raw, right? I think it was Nitro from 8 to 10 Eastern Time, and then Raw was 9 to 11. Well, that's why WCW was always blowing off pyro at the top of hour 2 and switching announce teams midway through the show. Or doing big angles that led into the top of the hour. Trying to keep fans hooked, which, I mean, it was absolutely genius marketing. But now things are going to get a little more dicey. Because the WWF is going to 2 hours, which gives them an extra hour to bring over fans that were strictly watching Nitro live at the time. Such as me, for example. So the Monday Night Wars are really heating up here in 97. It won't be long before they completely change the look and presentation of Raw as well. Total overhaul. New graphics, new stage, new title. Remember, that's when they eventually start calling it Raw is War. I think by like March or April, right? Yeah, a lot of big things going down in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And historically, it was a shift for the WWF that was really needed. Still got their asses handed to them in the ratings for another solid year. But the attitude part of this so-called branded attitude era is finally taking shape. The hints have been dropped. And as the WWF tries to cater more and more to that hardcore fan base, It is what makes the year 1997 such a landmark year. I know it's only the beginning stages, but you see that giant blank canvas start to fill out with some kind of painting or image. You know, it's still missing texture, it's still missing color and detail, but you can start to see the makings of something big. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up on that note. So again, no Friday show this coming week, and that's all I got for now. Folks, thanks for stopping by to check out the Monday edition of the FSWR Report, or FSWR podcast, and we will reconvene in a week for more Retro Raw coverage. And that's all I got for now. Stay warm, or especially if you're living in colder climates. Don't go outside today. It's not pleasant. Take care, all. Peace out.